31 M1A2 Abrams tanks, or the size of a Ukrainian tank battalion, will be sent to Ukraine by President Joe Biden, who made the announcement at the end of the month. However, the $400 million aid package also includes a different kind of vehicle that hasn't made the news: the U.S. Army's standard heavy recovery vehicle, the M88A2 Hercules. The Hercules was first used in the 1960s, and over the past 50 years, it has been improved to handle larger, heavier tanks. The Pentagon is concerned that Abrams tanks left on the battlefield could fall into the hands of Russians, which is reflected in the deployment of 8 M88s to Ukraine. In addition, the Pentagon wants the tanks to continue fighting. One of the largest armored recovery vehicles, ARVs, utilized by the United States Armed Forces is the M88 Recovery Vehicle. The M88 series has been used in the Vietnam War, the Persian Gulf War, the Iraq War, the war in Afghanistan, and, to a lesser extent, the Kosovo War, where they were used to help Allied ground units recover heavy armored vehicles. The M88 Hercules. In the early 20th century, a significant shift in land warfare was signaled by the creation of the tank, a heavily armed and armored fighting vehicle. Tanks, like all other land vehicles, eventually fail, necessitating towing. Tanks are particularly susceptible to damage from enemy fire, cross-country travel, and the excessive wear and tear of operating during wartime. The M88 Heavy Equipment Recovery Combat Utility Lifting Extraction System, Hercules, was introduced by the United States Army in 1961. The M88 was made to help tanks, removing damaged tanks from the front line and transporting them to the back, where they can be repaired, uprighting overturned tanks, and removing tanks from mud and other natural obstacles. A dozer blade and an A-frame winch are included in the M88. A Hercules is able to dig in and anchor itself while pulling distressed tanks thanks to the dozer blade, or spade, as it is referred to by the Army. The Hercules can lift tank turrets and engines up and off the vehicle for maintenance or repair thanks to the A-frame. The 4 crew members are shielded from heavy artillery and machine gun fire by the armored cab. Hercules gets stronger. The M88 was eventually upgraded to the M88A1 standard, which featured a more potent 750 horsepower Continental AVDS 1790-2DR diesel engine. The M88A1 could lift 25 tons and tow up to 56 tons. However, in the middle of the 1980s, when an upgraded version of the Army's Abrams tank went into service, the service realized it had a problem. Even Hercules had a hard time handling the new version. The M1 Abrams main battle tank had a starting weight of 55 tons, which was considered to be very heavy for the time. The M1A1, an upgrade that included the use of armor made of depleted uranium, which is 5 times heavier than steel, a larger smoothbore gun with a diameter of 120 millimeters, and other enhancements, came quickly after this. One of the world's heaviest tanks is the most recent version, the M1A2 SCPV-3, which weighs a staggering 73.6 tons. In the 1980s and 1990s, the United States Army used the M88A1 by daisy-chaining 2 of them to pull a single M1A1. The Army developed the M88A2 in the 1990s because this was not a good solution because it required 2 M88s to be used for the same task. The M88A2 was also used by the Marines and could winch lift up to 35 tons and tow up to 80 tons. Once more, this made it possible to service only 1 Abrams tank with a single M88A2. This increase in capability resulted in the M88A2 being upgraded to a heavy recovery vehicle, in contrast to earlier versions of the M88, which were type classified as medium recovery vehicles. Secret keeping. Along with 31 Abrams tanks, the Pentagon is sending 8 M88A2s to Ukraine. This is due to 2 factors. The first reason is that Ukrainian troops will be trained to maintain tanks, but they won't have experienced Abrams maintainers. The Abrams is a fairly complicated piece of equipment. It's possible that Abrams tanks will need to spend more time doing maintenance in the back. so they'll need to be towed by vehicles. Another issue is that it is almost certain that the Pentagon is concerned about Russian troops seizing an Abrams and discovering its secrets. It could end up being towed away by the wrong side if a Ukrainian M1 breaks down or is damaged on the battlefield. If threatened with capture, Ukrainian troops are instructed to destroy high-tech Western equipment like the Javelin missile. However, a heavily armored 73-ton tank is entirely different. The Department of Defense wants to make sure that the means to evacuate a Ukrainian army, Abrams, as soon as possible are available in the event that it becomes a casualty on the battlefield. The unassuming vehicle known as the Hercules is absolutely necessary for any mechanized army. A stationary tank is a disadvantage for any army, especially during war. And vehicles like the M88A2 can keep a combined arms force like the United States Army moving as it tries to achieve its goals. It's unlikely that its designers ever anticipated that it would be given to an ex-Soviet army to fight another ex-Soviet army. Like a lot of equipment heading east lately. Delivery contract. In November 2006, the U.S. Army placed a $251 million order for 113 M88A2 vehicles, and deliveries were completed in 2009. The U.S. Army's system technical support and supply of spare parts were also included in the contract's scope. In 2008, BAE Systems received a $185 million order from the U.S. Army for 90 M88A2 Army-configured vehicles and 4 vehicles for the U.S. Marine Corps. Under an $81 million contract awarded in May 2009, the U.S. Army placed orders for another 39 vehicles. In July 2010, BAE Systems received a $70 million contract to convert 30 U.S. Army M88A1 hulls into M88A2 Hercules vehicles. In July 2011, the company received a $165 million contract to convert 43 vehicles. In August 2011, a contract worth $108 million was awarded for the supply of 29 Hercules vehicles to the U.S. Army and 16 vehicles to the U.S. Marine Corps. In order to fulfill the U.S. Army's requirement for 748 armored recovery vehicles, BAE Systems delivered 75 vehicles to the U.S. Marine Corps and 500 vehicles to the U.S. Army by October 2012. In July 2015, the U.S. Army awarded the company a $110 million contract to convert 36 M88A1 vehicles to the M88A2 standard. In April 2016, the company received another contract to convert another 36 M88A1 vehicles.